cosmological argument, first formalized by the ancient Greek philosophers Plato and Aristotle and later expanded upon by the 13th century philosopher and saint Thomas Aquinas, posits that all things natural are the result of a cause, of which could either be kinetic or the result of a universal force, that is gravity, electromagnetism, the strong nuclear force, or the weak nuclear force, and holds that therefore because an infinite number of causal predecessors would mathematically negate the present time, a being of supernatural existence, that is one that exists separate from and is therefore not bound by the laws of physical existence, must be the original cause of physical existence. Understanding the cosmological argument requires a sufficient knowledge of the meanings of the terms it uses. To begin with, it must be known that cause here does not refer to only kinetic causes, but also to what will be here referred to as force causes, or the causes that are one of the four universal forces, such as the electromagnetic force being the force cause of the spontaneous creation of matter and antimatter. Secondly, it must be known what is meant by the terms natural and supernatural. Here, natural refers to anything in existence which has the potentiality to be fully described in mathematical or physical terms. Essentially, this encompasses all matter in space. Conversely, supernatural is used to refer to anything which does not possess the ability to be described in mathematical or physical terms, as both physics and mathematics are studies of the natural world. Supernatural existence essentially encompasses all things not matter in space. Finally, it must be known that here being refers to a conscious existence capable of some form of thought. The universe is a domino effect, having everything being set into motion by a predecessor. An electron repels away from another electron which was hurled toward it when it was repelled by a third electron, which in turn itself was repelled by yet another electron, etc., etc. Eventually, when traced back far enough, it will be found that the initial electron came into existence via spontaneous creation by the electromagnetic force, alongside with the positron. Here many claim is where the cosmological argument breaks. However, as I have previously pointed out, the causes in the cosmological argument do not refer to only simple kinetic causes, that is, the interaction of matter, but also to causes of force, which therefore includes the need to trace the cause of the force's existence. It must not be assumed that these forces have always been, for there is no evidence to suggest they exist outside of a universe. Therefore, they may only be as old as the universe they occupy, or possibly the respective aspect of the universe which they govern. This leaves the possible cause of a universal force as either the creation of the universe itself or the creation of the aspects within the universe to which they govern. In both cases, this raises the need to trace the cause of the universe. While there is no formal name given to the conditions at which physical existence operates on outside of our own universe, here it will be called physical law for the sake of simplicity and brevity. Physical law allows for universes to exist and or come into existence. It is the pre-existing law which now itself begs to be examined for a cause. Physical law cannot be eternal as it restricts itself from being so, nor can physical law be one cause in an infinite number of preceding causes, as again it restricts itself from being so. Should a chain of reactions be infinite, the present would not exist, as an infinite number of preceding reactions await before it to be tripped, with another infinite number of preceding reactions between each one of them, with yet another infinite amount of reactions between those, etc. Much in the same way, if one continually adds dominoes to a chain, the final domino representing the present will never be tripped. The domino chain requires a finite length with a defined beginning. However, as it has been shown, all physical things, that is, including forces in physical law, are contingent upon a cause. Therefore, as it has been shown, an infinite number of preceding causes is a mathematical impossibility negated by the existence of a present. The initial cause, the first domino, must be supernatural, or in other words, not bound by physical law. From this, one may fall into the heresy of reducing God to a mere non-sentient existence, rather than a being. However, this view stems from an attempt, usually subconsciously, to ascribe physical or natural traits to a non-physical or supernatural being. To begin with, to reduce God to non-sentience requires a cause outside of God's self for the inceptions of God's act of creation, thus ascribing physical law to a non-physical being, which therefore makes this reduction invalid. This non-sentience requires a cause of another non-sentience to act, therefore this reduction causes a return to the domino effect, which by necessity fails to possess the ability to be applied to the first cause and therefore renders this heresy logically invalid. If such a cause of the inception of God's act of creation is found inherent in God himself, it is therefore a non-physical action of God himself, who himself is non-physical, rendering this action a thought, therefore requiring a mind, and therefore requiring sentience. Thus we must conclude that God has four essential traits in common with the God of Abraham, which are not shared among other supposed deities. Chiefly that he exists. Secondly, he is eternal, existing outside of and independent from time. Thirdly, he is not physical, acting by sheer will rather than labor. Finally, he is omnipotent, being able to create universes by will alone. And in totality, the cosmological argument presents us with an important yet incomplete description of God.